welcome to the Life Groups and Life Missions Leadership Podcast. We're honored that you chose to spend just a few minutes of your week with us. We hope that today's content will bring value to you as a leader and as a follower of Christ.
Well, as you can see, we have an extra person sitting here with us today, our amazing operations pastor, Doug Tappan.
We thought about just putting him in the corner and letting him just kind of sit there creepily, but we thought it'd be better to actually bring him into the show.
I was open to it.
He actually attempted to do that right before.
I had a dramatic entry plan, but they nixed it. So, sorry, your loss.
Well, I have had the amazing privilege of working and serving God alongside you, Doug, for almost 3 years now. And if you hadn't heard already over the weekend, Doug has recently accepted a position in Albany, New York. So today we want to talk
at Life Church.
At Life Church, yes. Thank you.
So
Life Church Albany.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about obedience and what it looks like, and we thought, man, who better than to talk about this right now than Doug? So Doug, what ultimately, so you've actually moved twice now. So initially you moved from New Hampshire down to Oklahoma and accepted a position here, now going kind of back up home. What really affirmed it to you spiritually, you and Megan, to move from New Hampshire to take that step and move down to Oklahoma?
Yeah, I wish it was a simple, like we had this angel appear to us and make it clear. It was a process.
Yeah.
And for me, it was probably a year-long process where I would debate and go back and forth. Is God calling us to do this? I'd have days where I felt like yes, and then I've had days when I feel like no. And it was honestly my wife, Megan, who was the one who, she knew before I did. She knew that we were supposed to move. And when I finally came to the conclusion, she was like, well, yeah, I mean, I've known for a while now. I've just been waiting for you to get there. So she was patient with me. God was patient with me. And, there was a verse that would come up from time to time and has recently, God talking to Abraham in the Old Testament and saying to him, I want you to go. I want you to leave the land of your family, the land you've been familiar with. And I want you to leave, and I want you to go to a land that I will show you. Mm-hmm. And so God doesn't say, here's where you're going, here's the salary package, here's, it's all lined up for you. He says, you're going to go, and then I'll show you. Yeah. And that was kind of the way it played out for us in New Hampshire, was that I actually ended up resigning my job at the church before I had another job lined up.
Yep.
Wow. And the church was very gracious and patient and allowed me to take my time, but it was almost like God, that was a step that I needed to take of faith and obedience, not knowing exactly where I was going to go or how, but God took care of us in the end. And even I look back and I go, all the things that I had fears about, God took care of them and then some.
I remember when Michelle and I moved from Oklahoma City here to Owasso, I kept waiting on God to give me peace about the move. And he kept telling me to be obedient, be obedient, be obedient. But I'm like, God, I want your peace. I want your peace. I want your peace. And I remember driving in my car and God specifically saying to me, why should my peace precede your obedience? Mm-hmm. And it hit me like sometimes, man, peace doesn't come before the obedience. It follows obedience. Mm-hmm. And we have to take that step out. And I know you're taking a big step of obedience right now. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little about what's going on in the Tappan family as you guys are getting ready to make this move.
Yeah, for probably about a year now, we've sensed that just change was coming. Mm-hmm. And there's been a kind of restlessness for both my wife and I. And we didn't know what, but we knew the change was coming. And so when we got a call a few weeks ago, it wasn't completely out of the blue, even though it was still a surprise, asking us if we'd consider going. But it was definitely confirmation of what we've been feeling. And I definitely resonate with that. Again, Donnie, like that, this stage of like lasts, this stage of goodbyes, it's tough. And I just find myself, continually, if I'm being honest, just feeling sad and wondering, well, if we're obeying God, why am I not happy? Why am I not excited? And I have moments of that. But God rarely calls us to do things that are easy. It's acts of obedience. They're often difficult. But on the other side of that, there's the faithfulness of God. There's the provision of God. There's joy. There's peace. There's fulfillment. but we've got to get through that initial step of obedience and be obedient even when it doesn't feel good, like Donnie was referencing.
Yeah. Isaiah 26:3, it says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." A lot of times the peace that we're talking about, it comes because we're putting our faith and we're just being willing to be obedient. But let's face it, God's not calling most of us to move halfway across the country. So how do we apply this in these everyday decisions that we get the opportunity to make?
So I would say every step that we take with Jesus, there's typically some bit of uncomfortableness or unsureness.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of fear. There's a little bit of sadness. But those things are normal, and what they do is they help us to build resiliency. And we recognize for you guys have taken that step. I remember 3.5 years ago when I first stepped into leading a life group, it was so scary for me. And so we recognize just as much as Doug is experiencing fear, I have experienced the fear, Donnie has experienced the fear, you guys have experienced that fear, and you are leaning into it, and you are being obedient. And we are so thankful for that, for you guys, and for everything that you are doing. We recognize that we have the opportunity every week to invest in you guys. We love you so much, and really just keep leaning in. Even when you don't know what's going to happen with your group, keep leaning in because God is faithful.
Yeah. So send Doug a message. Let him know that you are thinking for him, praying for him. Be praying for the Tappan family. We can't wait to connect with you guys on the weekend. Come and find us on the lobby. We'd love to shake your hand, hug your neck, and hear how your group is doing. But until we see you guys next time, remember, whoever finds God
Finds life.